welcome everyone. It's exciting to have this chat on a career in tech. This came about because of a young man called Taku, who's also part of this call. So Taku, shout out to you. Um, Hopefully this will be beneficial to all of you. We hope to take about 30 to 40 minutes and we'll be done. So we shall begin. So the agenda for today, we're going to look at 5 quick things. The first thing is I'm going to tell you my story, and I call that a techimony because it's a testimony of my technology journey. So I'm going to share with you my techimony. Then we're going to look at the tech landscape. What are the current trends in technology globally currently? Thirdly, we're going to look at a day in the life of myself. So you're going to come with me to my office and see what work I do every day. You're going to get to experience that. Fourth, we're going to look at a few tips and tricks that I've learned through my work in technology. And lastly, I'll give anyone an opportunity who has a question to ask, and I'll answer as best as I can. At the bottom there is a quote which says, choose a job you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. I'm going to ask one person to unmute their mic and tell me what they understand from that quote. Choose a job you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. Anyone want to share what they understand from that? Go for it. Just unmute yourself and speak. Anyone?
What I understand by that is that it means that if you do something you really love, it won't be like you'll be working. It's like you're just doing something you really like doing. So it doesn't feel like work anymore. It feels like a hobby or something more interesting than just working.
Definitely. That is exactly what this quote means. It means that if you do work you love, you're basically getting paid for something you enjoy doing. And that's the thrust of what we'll be talking about today. It's finding what we love doing and making that our career. Okay, so I'm going to share my techie with you, like I said, and I'm going to start at the very beginning. I was born in 1987. That shows you how old I am. I went to high school. I was in Form 4 in 2004, and I finished high school in 2006. In high school, I sometimes had fees issues. We struggled to pay school fees, and I got 8 points at A level. Why am I sharing this? Because for you to be successful in your career, it doesn't mean you don't face challenges. And it doesn't mean that you only have to get high grades. So here I'm a living testimony. 8 points in Zim is not considered that great. Most people look at 10 points and above. But here I am, I managed to get a technology career even with grades like that. 2007 to 2012, I went to university. Another setback, I had to repeat 1 year in university. Again, when you look at me and look at me now, you think, oh, wow, she's doing well in technology. You wouldn't guess that I actually had to repeat a year. At that stage, I didn't know what I wanted to be. So if you're here right now and you're thinking, by now I need to know what I want to be, it's totally fine to have no idea. But hopefully after today, you will have a better idea. We'll talk about some ideas later on. 2012, I graduated from university, and luckily I got a job, but I worked in this job for 5 years and I was so unhappy because it was a job that wasn't really fulfilling for me. I just used to do the same thing day in, day out, and it wasn't stuff that I really loved. So that again was a setback. During this period, I tried out for my driver's license 12 times. I only got it on the 13th time. Again, why am I sharing this? Because I believe failures are always part of your success journey. And then something happened around about 2017. I was called by some friends of mine who told me about a youth leadership forum. And I went for this, and they basically taught us how to plan for your career, how to envision your life in the future. And for me, that's when I decided, you know what, right now I'm in a job I don't really like, but I'm I'm having a bad attitude, and that's not going to get me anywhere. So that light bulb moment in my life made me be like, okay, let me rethink my life. What actually do I want to do, and what am I doing now to get there? And so I started. I remember once they asked us to write a 10-year plan. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Write a story acting as if you're yourself in 10 years. And I struggled with that because I had never thought that far in my life before. I had always taken it a year at the time or whatever. So for me, I was like, okay. But now when I look back at the document I wrote back, I'm actually achieving most of the things I wrote that I would achieve in 10 years. Um, so that's where my career planning began. 2017, that was just 3 years ago. So, like I said, it's never too late. Then I decided to start applying for new jobs. So I looked at my career. I was like, okay, I have a degree in maths, and there's this thing people keep talking about called data science. I think I like that and I want to try it out. But how do I even begin? So I looked online and started doing a few courses online on data science. And I did up my CV, and I applied every day at lunchtime at my old job for 3 years. It took me 3 years to get an interview with the biggest technology company in Zimbabwe. I got the interview, and that's where my technology journey began, which was just 3 years ago, 2017. So when I went for this interview, um, the lady was very technical. She's now my boss. And she was asking me all these things. Do you know programming? Do you know how to build a model? Do you know logistic regression? And I was honest enough to tell her, actually, to be honest, I don't. But I've Googled data science and I'm so passionate about it. And I want to promise you, I'm a quick learner. I'm really willing to learn. If you coach me, I'm really into this data science thing. And in that interview, I was then told later on, we were 5 of us who made it to the finals. The other 4 people had master's degrees. I do not have my master's degree, but I was hired for this post. And my boss then later told me that I took you because you were so passionate. You didn't know what I was asking you, but you were so passionate. And you, because what we did was after the first interview, we then had to do a practical. So after I failed that first interview, she asked me all these things I didn't know. I went on Google and I was like, okay, what is logistic regression? What is coding? How do I start? What is this? And I read so much that when they called me for the practical exam, I was one of the top performers. And she said to me that that showed her that when she first spoke to me, she knew I didn't know anything. But when I did the practical exam, she could see that I had gone to research. So that's another key lesson I want you to keep at the back of your mind. Okay, so now I am currently a data analyst for this leading digital company in Zimbabwe. Um, since you guys are on this call, I'll give you the honor of knowing it's Econet Wireless. Um, so I'm a data analyst for Econet Wireless. Last year, the COO, which stands for Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Fayaz King, who is now actually the Assistant Secretary General for the United Nations globally in the world. Last year, while he was still at Econet, he asked me to work with him. Again, he said, I see passion in you. I see you're so willing to be taught. So he literally took me away from my boss and he started coaching me. And I worked with him for a year before he moved to the States to work for the United Nations. I'm also a global shaper. So you can Google this later. Global Shapers is a group of young people who are trying to make huge impact in the world. Last year, I also got the opportunity to travel outside of Africa for the first time ever. I managed to go to the United States. I'm now a mentor, mentoring young people who want to get into technology or who want to be change makers in their community. And I'm also a public speaker. One thing you'll know by the end of this presentation is I love. So I'm a speaker, and that's another key lesson to do what you love, right? And my journey is not over yet, but all this to say, I have a journey that was full of failures and setbacks. And now I think I'm finally on the path where I'm discovering what I actually really love doing. And so for 2020 and beyond, I just want to continue unraveling my vision, which I've written down. We'll talk more about that later. And I'm still growing, but this is just to show some of the highlights that have made my techie money. So I hope that helps someone. Right, now we're going to look at the global space of technology. Think back 5 to 10 years ago. You will agree with me that technology is moving really fast. The type of phones we used then versus now, totally different. New things are being released all the time. Um, so a key thing is we need to embrace technology. And you know what? Technology is no longer just for IT people, information technology people, people who study that only. Because if you study accounts, for example, and you become an accountant, if you don't embrace technology, we now have software that's able to automate accounting tasks that used to be done by people. Now a computer can do that. So your thing now as an accountant is, okay, how can I use what the computer is doing to make great decisions with this business based on accounts? If you don't do that, the computer will replace you and your job is gone. People will be like, we don't need to pay you anymore. There's a software we have that does that. So a key thing is whatever career you choose, whether it's accounts, whether you're a lawyer, embrace technology and be the best accountant. Be a tech accountant, be a tech lawyer. Whatever you do, put tech in it, because then you keep yourself relevant in your job. The second point is that the future of careers is changing. Um, the future of work was always coming. If you read articles even before the pandemic COVID-19, we were talking about soon people will be working from home. But COVID actually sped that process up. So this has come sooner than expected. In future, people say that how work will be is some individuals will be business entities on their own. So what does that mean? I will be sitting here from my home with my computer. I can be working for Google, Facebook, Yahoo, all at the same time because they now hire me as a consultant. So the future of work is not you going to an office and working for one place. It's you treating yourself as a moving business, and you can actually outsource your skills to different companies. And the more tech ready you are, the more you're going to sail through with that. The third thing is we have self-service that's growing, e-commerce. You can now order stuff online. And I used to think that Zim is slow in this area, like Zim lags behind, which is kind of true. But I was encouraged during this lockdown period to note that I was able to order a Mother's Day gift for my mom online. I never moved out of the house. Literally, it was delivered to me. I just specified what I wanted and it was delivered. I've been able to order food, groceries, my car license, and this is being delivered here in Zimbabwe. So tech is coming fast, guys. And if we don't embrace this, we're going to be left behind. Artificial intelligence, we're hearing about self-driving cars, a car that you can leave in a parking lot and it will come and find you afterwards. We've heard about big data. Big data is basically what I do currently for Econet, where there are millions of records of data, how many calls were made today, how many calls were made in the last year. And you need to learn coding or data science to be able to understand that data. We're seeing people moving to the cloud. Back in the day, we would take pictures and store them physically somewhere. Now, like Google has your life. If you have a Google Drive account and save your pictures there, you can leave them there now. Go back 2 years later, your pictures are all there. People are moving to the cloud. The introduction of 5G, which is basically the new technology that will drive internet on our phones, mobile internet. The speeds will be crazy. Someone was talking about we might actually get to a stage where we don't need network stations anymore. Literally, I can pull network off of someone's phone who's next to me, and the network will bounce off from phone to phone. So really, the future is coming fast, and these are some of the disruptive technologies that we're seeing coming about. And all this is part of what they're calling the fourth industrial revolution. If you're into tech, you have to know what fourth industrial revolution is. It's also known for short as 4IR. First revolution was when they introduced water and steam to running factories and industries. Second, they introduced electricity. Third, they introduced computers. And now we're in the digital age where it's just all about intelligence, things happening on their own, robots, computers driving some of the technologies we have. So that's just an idea of what it looks like out there. We looked at a timeline of my life. I've also put a timeline of technology. In 1970, I don't know how many on this call would know or remember floppy disks. I remember them from my mother's office when I was in grade 1. I used to sit in my mom's office and see these floppy disks all over. This is what they used to use to store information. 1980s, they introduced CD players. 1990s came the internet. 2000s came Bluetooth, your iPods, your touch screens. Round about the 2010s, 4G devices came, iPads, 3D television, and now going beyond, we're seeing the introduction, like I said, of 5G. We're still in the early stages. We've seen 3D printing. Someone was telling me at some stage you'll be able to print a burger and eat it. Like, how crazy is that? We're seeing face recognition. So technology, really, the timeline is crazy. Things are just coming in. Okay, so the tech landscape, what career can you have in technology? These are, I looked up the 20 best tech jobs in the world. So you can have a look at them. I'll also try and share this presentation later so that you can keep these notes. The job I do, a data analyst, is number 6. It's the 6th best tech job in the world. So consider becoming a data analyst if you're interested in that. But my point is there's so many options. You can become a developer, you can be an IT manager, a data scientist. And then what I've put on the side there is back then, for you to be one of these things, you had to study engineering or computer science or maths or business management or IT. I've left out some, but these are the main ones. Now, you can study law or teaching or whatever and still become a data analyst or still become a data scientist or a dev manager, because we now have resources online. So literally you can decide today to change your career. You can be a teacher and decide, right, from today, I'm starting my data science journey. So this is just to show you that it's not as closed box as it used to be. You can literally study anything and then use online resources to make yourself become what you want to be. And I actually started this journey in 2017. I knew nothing, zero about data science other than Googling what is data science. Today, 3 years later, I'm a qualified data analyst because of the resources I've used online. So please, guys, online stuff, use it. It's there for your benefit. Right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you into my life as a data analyst. This is what I do when I wake up in the morning, go to work. Well, currently I'm working from home, but when I open my computer, I basically look at our records to help our managers make decisions about the business. So for example, we have, just for argument's sake, EcoCash. I'll look at how many transactions were made on EcoCash, how many subscribers used EcoCash yesterday, and what's the value they transacted. So I'll look at a table that looks like this, what you can see in front of you. And then ordinarily, back when I first started, I would then use Excel to create a graph of these numbers to show me which are the high days, which are the low days. And then I would create the report for managers to say, okay, on Wednesdays, we have lower numbers than Thursdays. So let's have a campaign on Wednesdays to get more people to join or whatever. So this is what I do. I then also use different graphs. So this is a stacked column chart. You can also use a normal column chart. That's the same information displayed differently. You can also use a trend line or a line chart, which actually shows you from day to day what the movement is like. So this is literally what I do every day. And then we're gonna code a little bit. We're gonna take like 5 minutes. So we pull our tables out of, you can use what they call SQL or SQL. and I'm going to teach us how to extract one small thing. So in SQL, we use statements. Select means you're choosing. Where is if you're putting a condition. If is also a condition. From is where you're pulling the data from. And is how we use it in everyday life if you want to put something and something. So in this example, I'm going to select all. Select all means I'm choosing all the columns in this table. So I'm choosing day, transactions, subscribers, amount. That's what I mean by all. From the table, so the table will have a name. This one is called table. Where day equals Saturday. So this means I want my program to pull all columns from this table that you can see only where the day is Saturday. And this will be the result. It will pull in the row that has Saturday only. So this is just an introduction. If you had no idea what coding looks like, this is an introduction to some of data science coding that's out there. Then what we also do is, because this table is small right now, you can see it. But when I'm dealing with Econet's data, which is millions and millions and millions of rows, obviously they can't fit on this page. So I no longer use Excel because Excel is limited to 1 million rows. I use way more than 1 million. So I now use tools like Python to code. So I just wrote a quick Python script here to show you what I do. You import your library. Import basically means you're bringing the library into your environment. PD read Excel means I'm telling Python to read my Excel table. Head basically means you're showing the first rows of your data. And describe will show you your average, your minimum, and your maximum. So this is Python code, but there's so much you can do with it. This is just giving you a rough idea. So this is what my life is like day to day. I've showed you generally what I do. So you can give yourself a hand. You've officially completed your first data analytics task. So for you, coming back to you, how do you choose a career? There's what I call your happy place, which is where these 6 things meet. What are your passions? What do you love doing? For me, for example, I love technology. I love talking. I love organizing things. Think about what it is for you. Secondly, what do you know? For me, because I studied a degree in maths and I've now been working on analytics, I now know these things. And what do you do easily? What comes easily to you where people are like, "Eesh, this is so hard for me." But you know for you, this is easy, right? What do others affirm about you? Is there something that your friends say, "Dude, you're actually really good at this"? That's also another indicator of what your career might be. What do you aspire to? What do you dream about that you just want to be? That's another indicator. And lastly, what bothers you in the world? For me, I hate disorganization. And so it makes sense that I'm a data analyst because data analysts organize data. So once you find these 6 things, you find your happy place, which is basically your ideal career. Now, because we live in Zimbabwe, some of us in Africa, wherever we are, things don't always go the way we want. So I'm not saying that your career should tick all these 6 things. This would be the perfect scenario, yes, if it ticks all 6. But sometimes you might find you're in a career that only meets 2 of these things. Maybe it's what you know and what you do easily, but you don't really love it. And that's fine to start there. Sometimes you have to actually start with something that's not that great for you to build your career. So that's how you basically start to choose a career. And then ending off with some tips and tricks. Start thinking of your happy place. I will share this presentation with whoever wants afterwards. So start thinking of what it is you love, you know, you're passionate about, and start writing those things down. Second of all, it's okay if it takes time. For me, after I graduated, I worked 5 years before I actually started what I actually now call my true career, which is in technology. So sometimes it's fine. It takes time, and that's okay. The problem with us young people these days is we want instant results. But if you look at experts from back in the day, you'll find they'll tell you, "I've got 30 years experience doing this." So be okay with something taking time. Failures are part of the journey. I think I've made that very clear. Fourthly, attitude matters. People hire personality. Skills can always be learned later. So be a person whose attitude really catches the attention of those people who you want to work for. Envision your future. If you've never done this before, please write down where you see yourself in 5 years. And you know what? The thing about envisioning your future is it can be as crazy or as big as whatever. Literally, if you want to say, I want to go to space in 10 years, write it down. That's your vision. And then start seeing what are the small steps you can start taking to get to where you want to go. Also, think about volunteering. I've been volunteering at a lot of places, and sometimes people will then refer me for certain work because they've seen me work for free somewhere else. So don't be shy of volunteering. It helps you gain experience. It helps you see different situations, and that actually adds to your experience. Number 7, the internet is your friend. Guys, I can tell you now, I'm a professional data analyst, but there are days where my boss will ask me for something and I'll literally go to Google and be like, how do you do this? No one knows everything. And we've got so many resources out there. So don't be scared of Google, YouTube. When you start your tech journey, start with what is programming? How do I do this? There's so much out there. So please, the internet is your friend. Then this is a big one. The last 3 points go hand in hand with this. Pick an interest, learn as much as you can, and then practice. Pick something you're interested in and pursue it relentlessly. Don't go all over, doing different things, because then you don't become an experienced. Pick one thing, pursue that. You don't have to be clever. You just have to be intentional. So you can be someone who failed at school or didn't pass your university degree, but just pick something, and the more you practice, you get better at it. Experts take years to learn and practice. Practice is better than talent. You can make mistakes, but repeat and repeat and repeat, and you'll be good. So, like I said, if you forget everything else, remember the last thing I said. Pick an interest, learn as much as you can, and practice. Okay, we've run out of time, but thank you everyone so much for being part of this webinar, this chat. Let me know if you want more of them. And I am sharing my contact details once again in case you want to get in touch with me.